Hey, Brandon here. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the Top 40 Future Dynasty Wide Receiver Show. If you play Devy out there, it's basically a Top 40 Devy Wide Receiver Show. But if you play Dynasty, you're going to want to tune in because me and Jason here with me tonight, we are going to talk about the top 40 wide receivers playing college football who we believe have the future to make it to our Dynasty rosters. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Brandon. Excited for this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of good discussion.
There is. It's going to be a lot of good discussion. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Again, if you play Dynasty, you're going to want to tune in because we're going to give you a sneak peek of the 2024 class, the 2025 class, and in some cases, we're going to be picking 2026 wide receivers. Jason and I have a ton of films on this channel that we've been grinding film. We just did a Matthew Golden film. You're going to hear his name called later on. He was a freshman Houston wide receiver this past season. So it's going to give you a good future glimpse of what the wide receiver landscape looks like. So we're going to talk about the player briefly. We're going to talk about what year he is draft eligible, and then kind of what we see as far as a future dynasty asset. You know, is he a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3, or 4? Most of the people on this list we're going to say are wide receiver 1 and 2s, hopefully in our eyes. Each draft we get maybe 8 to 10 wide receivers that really make it to be consistent, dynasty wide receiver assets, right? That give us productivity each week. So we're going to do our best to kind of go through all of college football wide receivers and give you our best list and best guesses of who we think are going to reach your dynasty rosters sooner rather than later. Jason, why don't you start us off? Give us probably a name that most people have heard out there playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, who a big asset coming next year.
Yeah, man. So this one was kind of easy, but I am going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State receiver. Just checks every single box. I mean, this is a guy to really get excited about. He's a blue chip prospect. And if you already have him on your Devy Dynasty rosters, then congratulations. You got yourself a receiver who you can just plug and play for the next 10 years or more.
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, he's really looking like the next Chase coming out of from LSU. Yeah. So with the coming in second, we're kind of just doing like a draft order here. We're going to go back and forth for each one. I'm going to go with Malik Nabers, LSU wide receiver. He is draft eligible in 2024. Do I see him as a wide receiver 1? Possibly, but a solid wide receiver 2 on a team. He's going to be a junior next year, but he really shined last year when we all thought it was going to be Kayshon Boutte, who was the primary receiver at LSU last year. It ended up being Malik Nabers. So I think this kid is going to get maybe first day draft capital next year in the 2024 draft. Malik Nabers is who I'm picking here at the second pick.
Nice. I really like Nabers. He's my wide receiver 2 right now. I'm going to go with Antonio Williams out of Clemson. I think that he just has the skill set, the intelligence that I'm looking for. Slot receiver. I see him as a solid wide receiver too. Very productive last year, and I think he's only going to get better with Cade Klubnik going into 2023. So Antonio Williams I feel really good about, and I can put my money where my mouth is, man. I've been taking him everywhere in Devy, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be in, hopefully, for a great season. And you and I did a film breakdown on this YouTube channel on Antonio Williams. So if you want to go check it out. You're probably going to hear me say that a lot on this show because we have a lot of film breakdowns on this channel as well. Emeka Egbuka, I'm going to take here at number 4. Most people are thinking he was going to be the second selection. I kind of like Nabers a little bit more. We did an Egbuka film review just, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago on this channel. So go check that out. Plays for Ohio State. Everybody knows the hit rate on Ohio State wide receivers, especially when you're going in your junior season and the NFL scouts already have your eye on you. I won't be surprised if Harrison and Egbuka are the 2 first receivers actually drafted next year in the NFL draft. But I've seen some mock drafts where Nabers and is getting up there, but he's going to be a 2024 draft pick. Do I see him as a wide receiver 1? I'm going to think that maybe he's going to be a solid wide receiver 2. I don't know if he's going to lead an NFL team and be that primary ball receiver.
All right. Yeah, I can understand where you're going with that. With this next pick, I'm going to go with Evan Stewart, 2025 receiver out of Texas A&M. I actually have Antonio Williams and Stewart tiered together. I see them very similar, but I do think Stewart provides an explosion level that I did not see from Williams. But regardless, I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 on your dynasty roster, and I think that he's going to make a lot of noise this upcoming season.
Yeah, so he's going into his sophomore year. He's eligible for the 2025 draft.
Right.
Number 6, I'm going with another receiver going into their sophomore season, playing at Missouri. I'm going with Luther Burden. He's a 2025 NFL prospect. Had a good, solid year last year. I like his build. I like his physicality. And you know me, Jason, when it comes to physicality and receivers. Now, there was a lot of talk about him not really getting a lot of vertical play last year, and he was used in a lot of like that Deebo Samuel role there at Missouri, where he was a lot of short area and intermediate. I think he's got some good yak ability. He's strong. He's physical.
Yeah,
I think
so too.
I think he's a space creator. So really looking to see. I wish he was on another team, to be quite honest with you, where we could maybe see a little bit better quarterback play and a little better offense. But again, when it comes down to NFL and them drafting players, it's all about skill set, not so much production. So Luther Burden at number 6 here for me.
I like that pick. Number 7, I'm going to go with T-Mac, Tatoria McMillan. I hope I said the first name correctly, out of Arizona. Another 2025 guy. But I actually, this one's a tough one because I can see him as an absolute solid wide receiver 2, but that wide receiver 1 upside is definitely there.
Yeah.
You said it on one of our recent episodes where you kind of said he reminds you of Drake London. I see it, man.
Yeah,
I absolutely see it. And we did a film breakdown on him, and there was a lot to like. So T-Mac for me at number 7, I feel really good about.
I like it. I'm going with a guy, Troy Franklin player. That's going to the NFL draft next year, 2024 prospect at Oregon. Really kind of blossomed last year. Bo Nix came into town and really provided Franklin with the opportunity to make some noise. And I think those two are going to be a really, really solid tandem this year. Taller receiver. He's got some vertical ability. He's got good yak ability. Do I see him as a wide receiver 1? No, he's be a great complement to an explosive wide receiver. But I think he's going to need to go to a team in the NFL that already has. I don't know if he's got the size and frame to be that alpha on a team. But we just did a film breakdown, my buddy Corey Pierre and I, on him as well on this channel. So go check it out. You can see for yourself what kind of skill set this kid has.
Nice. At number 9, I'm going to go Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Explosive receiver, deep threat ability with that elite speed. Definitely needs to work on the hands a little bit. And I'm not too sure as far as the route running, as far as complex routes or anything like that. But as far as him being able to stack defenders and threaten deep, he can definitely do that. And he's excellent in the middle of the field in open zone lanes. So I like what he brings. I'm a little cautious on him because of the weight in the 160s as well. So, I mean, I could see wide receiver 3 with the upside of wide receiver 2, personally.
Yeah, okay. I could see that too. And I think he's got to work on those hands big time at Texas this year. But explosive player.
Big playability makes it's too intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is part of the fun. I mean, this is all projection. I mean, you and I have been watching these players we watch college football. We're grinding the film on this channel. So we've got a pretty good idea of what the skill sets are of these players. With 10th pick here, I'm going to go with Rome Odunze. I know a lot of people now are kind of off Rome, and they'd probably be reaching into the deeper classes. Then my next pick, I'll be reaching a little deeper. But here, I'm not going to let Rome Odunze. I really like this kid. 2024 draft eligible. I'm seeing him mocked in the first and second round. If he gets first day 1 or day 2 draft capital, I'm fine with it. Big kid. He's got the physicality. He's got really good yak ability. I think he can create space, especially for that size. Do I see him as a wide receiver 1 on a team? No, but I think he could be a great complement to a team. And he's going to be hitting our dynasty rosters next year. So I'm excited about Rome Odunze.
Yeah, I'm excited about him too. And he's definitely getting day 1 or day 2 for sure. He's not getting that day 2. I'm going to go with his teammate, Jalen McMillan, another 2025 prospect, one of my favorite players ever since high school. And I'll remove the bias. I just think he's a phenomenal athlete. I think he's got great hands. I've seen the shoestring catches. Just excellent as far as his awareness and nuance as far as the route running goes. So I feel really good about taking McMillan here. And I think he can be a solid wide receiver too at the next level.
Yeah, so this is kind of where it starts to get fun. All right.
I agree.
So especially for us Devy guys, right? The
Yeah.
you know, who are always looking towards the future. So I'm going to be dabbling in my 2026 class. I'm going with CARNELL TATE. I'm going with an Ohio State wide receiver here. He's my number one incoming freshman prospect on my Devy dashboard. He lost his stripe early at Ohio State, and that means he's already more mature than they expect him to be. And he's going to get on the field this year. I think there's a good chance. Julian Fleming is the third receiver on that team, but if CARNELL TATE really blows up this summer and really practices well, I could see him like getting some run this year. So CARNELL TATE, I'm going to dip my class, 3 years away, but I'm going to take potentially one of the best wide receivers of the freshman class coming in this year.
Yeah, he got his black stripe removed with that tradition very early on at Buckeyes spring training, so that's a good sign too. I'm gonna go with my wide receiver one in the 2026 class, and I'm going with ZACHARIAH Branch going to USC. To me, he just looks like that mold of the Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle types that the NFL loves, with the athleticism, speed, and just the ability to separate on a dime. And I really like what I saw from his high school film. I think he does have future wide receiver one potential, if not solid upside of a wide receiver too.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, CARNELL TATE, I think I could see him being again coming from Ohio State, not to have a lazy comp out there, but Olave or Garrett Wilson. He's got that frame, and they love that same size at Ohio State. They always seem to get those 6'1", 190 guys. All right, number 14 here. We are going 40 deep, by the way. Number 14, I'm going to go with Antwone Wells Jr., 2024 prospect. Probably a surprise for the people listening on our podcast, Jason, maybe hearing his name with all the incoming freshmen, all the other players. But I'll tell you, if you haven't watched this kid play, I did a film on this YouTube channel about him, and man, the dude just drips with physicality. He's got great run after the catch ability, solid hands, tough. He just looks like a football player to me. And I think he's undervalued right now. I don't think a lot of people are talking about him, but I'm going to predict by the time the 2024 draft cycle rolls around after this year, if he kills it again at South Carolina playing in the SEC, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think he could easily be in the top 10 of wide receivers next year in the draft.
I completely agree with you. I wrote him up for the Devy Watch. I fell in love with the intangibles as well. And Real Analytics, which is up and coming with how they do their speed projections with their technology, has him on the watch list as one of the fastest receivers in college football for the upcoming season. Did not see that coming, but they just tweeted it out, and it's there, and the proof is in the pudding. So Juice Wells is definitely one to watch. So my next guy, I'm going to go with another USC receiver in Dorian Singer. I mean, you can't deny if you've watched the film, and I urge you to go watch the film and get on Brandon's YouTube channel, Devy Dynasty, and watch Dorian Singer while he was at Arizona. Phenomenal player, phenomenal season, and just showcases all the ability that I'm looking for in a receiver. I mean, if I talk about solid wide receiver too, he to me is a solid wide receiver too.
Yeah, and Wells, I think, is a solid wide receiver too, as well. I think,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So my next pick, I think, actually has the ability potentially. I'm going back to the 2026 class to be a wide receiver one in the NFL, and that's Jurian Dickey going to Oregon. Love his size. It's 6'3", 210 pounds. He's got that size and prototypical, alpha frame. Don't love the landing spot, but Troy Franklin's going to get drafted this year, and he's probably first or a day 2 draft pick. So not many Oregon wide receivers make it to the NFL or Dynasty rosters, but this guy was a 5-star prospect, ranked either 2 or 3 in the class, and I'm going to dip my toes in the 2026 class again. I'm going to take him, but I love these bigger, more physical receivers, whether that's a flaw of mine or not. But again, I just, there's players out there that have succeeded in that frame, and I think he's a space creator too.
Yeah, I do too. And it's hard not to get excited about Dickey if you watch his huddle film. And it's huddle film, I understand, but if you watch it and you look for what you're supposed to be looking for, you can get excited about him, regardless of Oregon. All right, number 17, I'm going to go with BARION Brown out of Kentucky. I mean, this is a guy with elite speed, showcased himself really well last season. Sure, there's the concern about his frame in the 160s. He's been working really hard to add weight this season. So I'm anxious to see that official weight come beginning of this year. But I really liked what I saw. He can separate on a dime as well, and he can stretch the field. So to me, he's that upside play. I can't really say a solid wide receiver 2. I think wide receiver 3 is in the conversation right now, but the upside of 2 is definitely there.
Yeah, he's an electric player. I mean, he's got that speed that the NFL is going to fall in love with.
Exactly.
So I'm going with number 18 here. I'm going with Malik Benson, 2025 prospect, 6'1", 185. He is a JUCO transfer. He didn't have a single high school offer to speak of coming out of high school, and here he is 2 years later, starting for the Alabama Crimson Tide. All right. So I know that they're excited. It really is a cool story, and I'm rooting for this guy. I like his size. And I just think he's starting for Alabama. He's going to be potentially the alpha on that team. You read anything on the internet right now about him, the team is just really excited to have him. And Alabama needs to find their next set of receivers. So it's a wide open depth chart to me, and he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to showcase his skill. So this is going to be a risk reward pick here. But I might hit big here with Malik Benson.
Yeah, absolutely. My next guy, geez, I just realized I went USC, but still, it doesn't matter. I'm going with MAKAI Lemon, freshman, 2026. And I made it a point to watch some high school film because I really wanted to see. I didn't want to rely on all the huddle. And when I watched MAKAI Lemon, dude, he just pops off. He looks incredible, and he has all the skill set that I'm looking for. And I've said it before, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes out and is the best receiver out of this class, just how solid all around he is. And he has the athleticism, speed to go with it. And he's an elite return specialist. So I really like MAKAI Lemon. I know the target share may not be there this year,
right?
But if we're looking at why we do this, well, we have to be patient with some of the guys we like, and I'll be patient with Lemon.
Yeah, I like it. I do have a film on this channel on him as well. I mean, he played, it wasn't a huddle film. It was a playoff game or something like that. And he was pretty dynamic. He played with Malachi Nelson. Those two were playing together.
That chemistry is nice.
Yep, it sure is. Yeah, they're playing in college together. So with the 20th pick, halfway through this draft, I'm going to go with Jonte Cook, 2026 prospect. I think he's going to get on the field this year. I think he's going to be productive. He's got speed. He kind of flashed in the spring game. I think that wide receiver room outside of Worthy is wide open for the taking. I know you're going to talk about another Texas receiver here down the road here shortly, but I like the ability. I mean, he's, I think he's a 4-star prospect, has all the shiftiness and the vertical speed that you're looking for an explosive playmaker. So I think, if viewers can get a little bit more accurate this year, I think Cook could have a tremendous freshman season. He's a 2026 NFL draft prospect.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think he's going to be better than Worthy personally. So with my next pick, I'm going to go with Jacob Cowing out of Arizona. Just a smaller receiver, but absolutely explosive, understands spatial awareness and how to manipulate it with just his ability to, use his agility to his advantage, to evade, elude, and find the open spots. Really like this kid. His instant acceleration is second to none. I think he is going to be capped at his potential at the next level because I think he is only a slot receiver. But in saying that, I see wide receiver 3, but an upside of wide receiver 2 due to the yak ability, which is something I really like from him. I can see that happening as well.
Yeah, he's special with the ball in his hand. And I like it because this year he's coming back because he wants to play on the outside because he was primarily in the slot. So he's now with Singer in USC. He's now going to be playing a lot outside, which will be good for his NFL draft capital for sure.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yep. So number 22, I'm going to go with Matthew Golden. You and I just did a film review on him. Came away freshman. He's a 2020. Now he's just he's actually going into his sophomore season this year. He's a 2025 prospect. I see him as a good wide receiver 3 right now, maybe potentially a wide receiver 2. But I think you and I came away with his film that he potentially has a good foundation of a skill set here. Again, we're going to be getting this late in the game. We're going to be looking at a lot of projection and stuff, which is the fun of this whole process. But I liked what I saw with Matthew Golden. Tank Dell just got drafted in round 3 from the NFL. So the NFL scouts, aren't, look at Houston as potential, wide receivers where they come from. So I like what I saw with Matthew Golden. I think he has a good foundation. So I'm going to take
I like that pick a lot. And I agree with all the takes you just said, especially from the film we just watched. So with my next guy at number 23, I'm going to go with Alabama receiver Ja'Cory Brooks. It took me a second to really identify if I wanted to put him this high, but you know what? I remember when he was coming out, I don't feel like I've seen the Ja'Cory Brooks that I was expecting as of yet. And I think that will happen this season. I think he's trying to put it all together. I think he is very talented. There's just a lot of things that he needs to clean up. But if he cleans those things up, as far as, some of the misses and drops that he had, some of being out of place, if he cleans that up, I think he can be a special talent because he has shown flashes of it. And if those flashes just all become consistent, I want to make sure that I was, higher on this guy than, we probably are right now. So Ja'Cory Brooks out of Alabama, he's my guy.
Yeah, and he's got good size too, 6'2", 200 pounds.
200,
so yep. So with the 24th ranked receiver here, or draft, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to go with Beaux Collins from Clemson. He's kind of the forgotten Devy wide receiver we were all excited about 2 years ago, and he is the forgotten receiver. He's 2024 draft eligible, but I would think if he had a good year, there's a good chance he comes back for his senior season. He just needs to stay healthy. He flashed a lot last year in the games that he did play. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the first 4 games, had a shoulder injury, pretty much put him out for the majority of the year. So he's had to deal with injuries through his first 2 years, man. But if he could stay healthy, he's another taller, typical Clemson receiver that, has some, high point ability. He's got some route running chops, and I think is an overall really good receiver. And just like what you said about Ja'Cory Brooks, it's the same projection for Collins here. I'm looking at him as possibly, if he can keep it all together and stay on the field, looks like he's going to be ready for fall. I think he could really rise in the ranks if he has a solid year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Honestly, I really liked him coming into last year, and it was a disappointing year for Clemson all around. So maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah.
I'm losing it here. I'm going with another USC receiver, but it's not my fault. They're just stacked. They're stacked. It's not my fault. But I'm gonna go with Mario Williams. One, because I think at this point in time, he went from Oklahoma to USC, where he was productive at both programs. If you kind of really look at the situation he was in, he had a lot of talent around him at USC, and he still was able to produce. Definitely some drop issues. He needs to work on that. But I do think that I saw a good explosion from him off the line of scrimmage. In situations in the end zone, I saw him contort his body to the ball in high point. And that was pretty impressive to me. I like the thick lower half. He's actually an underrated deep threat. He's got a 13.6 ADOT and averages 15.9 yards per reception. So that ability right there tells me that there's some upside that we have not seen yet. The problem is I don't know if the target share is going to be there, but maybe, just maybe, with the way the NFL has been viewing players and not so much production, he might have a chance at the NFL level.
Yeah, I would agree. I just like to see him run more routes against coverage. He just really is one of these guys that has taken advantage of not being focused on and being, just out there in space a lot. So I'd like to see, if he can get manned up and how he handles that press coverage.
Yeah.
Number 26, I'm going to go with Ladd McConkey, Georgia wide receiver. He's probably too low on this list for me after making his film actually this morning. I'm going to be putting it out on this YouTube channel shortly. But I'll tell you what, man, the kid can play. I know you've been talking about Ladd McConkey, Jason, for 6 or 7 months on our podcast. You've mentioned him, I think, as a deep dive player. And I'm really excited for him this year. I think he's got some route running ability. I love his vision in the second level. He sets up defenders. I think he's got solid hands. I don't know what his catch rate is off the top of my hands, but he made some tremendous catches last year. I'm excited to see what he can do with Carson Beck this year. I think, Stetson's now in the NFL as a Ram. I think he's going to be their number one wide receiver. And if he comes out with 1,000 yards, 9, 10 touchdowns, I could see him being a day 2 pick next year. Do you think I'm crazy for that? I know you're a fan.
No, I don't think you're crazy. And honestly, he's the definition of consistent in an offense that doesn't even really throw the ball that much. So, you have Brock Bowers, who you expect, but Ladd McConkey just gets lost in the shuffle just because he's Ladd McConkey.
I don't know why.
There's nothing really fun about him, but he is always consistent and always around the ball at the catch point on time.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those guys. Maybe he's just boring, but boring and consistent. Hey, that usually pans out. That's how Hunter Renfrow was born.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm hoping I see him as a wide receiver 2, potentially, maybe probably more of a 3, but plays outside, inside, outside. So he's got some versatility.
Versatility's there. I like it. I love the call. Well, I'm gonna go with outside of USC this time. But I am gonna go with a Georgia transfer in AD Mitchell, who's heading over to Texas. And I like the size, man. He's like 6'3", 6'4". I love the speed that he possesses with that size. So that combination is definitely there. I think him being at Texas, where they're gonna need someone to really step up as a receiver. I mean, obviously, everybody's knowing and thinking it's going to be Xavier Worthy, but you just never know with the talent that has kind of been capped in a system that didn't get to showcase itself. And I think that is AD Mitchell. So just kind of really excited about his potential. More of a wide receiver, like a wide receiver 3 right now, maybe even 4. But I think there's a lot of upside with a kid like this who could pop off.
Yeah, he's another one who just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
haven't just been able to see what he can do. 28th pick here. I'm going to go with Noah Rogers. I'm going back to the 2026 class. I think it has the potential to be a solid wide receiver too. I love this Huddle film. I really like Rogers going to Ohio State. This late of picks here, I'm going to lean on Ohio State wide receivers a little bit. I think he's got all the ability flashed in the spring game. He just looks like a typical Ohio State wide receiver. And I think, don't know how much run he's going to get this year. Most likely not. But I could see CARNELL, TATE, and Rogers, and a guy you're going to speak about here, Innis, in a couple seconds. I could see all 3 of these guys having a significant role in 2024 college football season. So, these again are 2026 NFL draft prospects. So really like Rogers a lot.
Yeah, I like Rogers a lot too. When I watched the Huddle film, there were so many wow moments with his catches. So that really stuck out to me. But yeah, I'm going with Brandon Ennis here. And he's an interesting player to me or prospect, just because I think that he's got everything I'm looking for, but there's definitely limitation within his athleticism and speed. So that's where he kind of gets capped for me at a solid wide receiver 2, where I do think some of the skill set could provide wide receiver 1, but the upside is just not there for it. But Ennis to me is going to be a very special talent and contribute. I'm not sure right away, but definitely in his second year at Ohio State.
Yeah, same with Rogers. I think we're gonna have to wait till next year to really see any kind of thing happen with them, any sort of productivity rather. So I'm going to go with Isaiah Bond here at number 30. All right, he is going to be starting for Alabama. He was a disappointment last year, but he is the most explosive vertical threat they have in the wide receiver room right now, and he is slated to be a starter at Alabama. So I'm really hoping that Milroe can get the ball out to these players, and which is still, I think, a big if for the success of Alabama this year. But he was a high star recruit. We were excited about him last year, and this late in the game, I'm going to go with an Alabama wide receiver, and he's starting. And he, like I said, he's got the vertical explosiveness, and he's twitchy. So Bond is who I'm selecting here at the 30th pick.
Yeah, I mean, once we get into this spot, it's a lot about upside as well, right? So I'm going to go with one of my favorites, man, 2026 class, and I'm going with Jaden Greathouse going to Notre Dame. Kind of very similar to Innis in a way, where he has the size at 6'2", 220-ish pounds, but the overall athleticism just may not be there for the NFL standards. But man, I think the intelligence, the play strength, just his tenacious ability, I mean, even in the blocking, but just at the catch point, I love everything I've seen from him. So for me, I mean, he's the wide receiver 2. I want to say wide receiver 1, but I think the lack of overall athleticism for NFL standards may cap him in that wide receiver 2 role.
Yeah, I can see that. With my pick, I'm going to go with Malachi Corley. I'll tell you, this guy is, I like physicality when it comes to wide receivers. He's a 2024 prospect. He's got more of a running back build, 5'11", 212. But I'll tell you what, he led in FBS last year in 2 categories: yards after the catch, as well as forced missed tackles. That's as for receptions, and just made a film, put it out on the channel. Really impressed with his game. I mean, he's not going to be the most crisp route runner, But I think he's going to be one of those players, one of those weapons where you can put all over the field and be a difference maker. I really like his ability in the second level, and his physicality trying to take him to the ground is something else. So I think the teams are going to really enjoy that part of. He looks like just a true football player, and I'm really pulling for this guy. He's kind of like one of my dark horses in the 2024 draft class, seeing if he can't sneak into like an early day 3 conversation next year. At the draft, I'll be excited to watch him. But he was one of the most explosive receivers in college football, one of the most productive. Western Kentucky is where he plays, so he's coming from a G5 school, so that's a little bit of a blemish on his record. But if you go watch the film on the channel, I think you're going to see that he's a pretty explosive player.
Yeah, I watched the film and it definitely got me excited. So I would urge everybody to go watch the film as well. He did a great job on that cutup.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna kind of go with your Alabama take. I'm going with Kobe Prentice. I want the speed receiver with the yak ability, kind of very similar size to Devontae Smith. So not a large framed individual, but explosive, dynamic with the ball in his hands, and can get those additional yards. And that's what I'm going to be kind of going for this late in these rounds.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go with a crazy upside play here. Nicholas Harbor. Going to South Carolina. He's a physical freak. He played defensive end and tight end in high school, but he is 6'5", 225 pounds, and he was the #1 athlete in 24/7 Sports. So he is definitely going to be playing wide receiver for South Carolina. He's a track star. So for the size of this guy being 6'5" and he's like really fast. Everyone's been talking about what an athletic freak he is, kind of like the Anthony Richardson conversation when it came to the quarterback position. So if this guy can shine, whether he's a tight end or wide receiver, but given this size and speed combo here late in the game, man, I'm going to take a swing with him.
I love it, man. I think there was a tweet about comparing Tyreek Hill and Nicholas Harbor's 100-meter time. I think it was like a 10.2 or something, like absurd number. Yeah. So yeah, this is the kind of upside you want to be taking this late for sure.
For sure.
I'm gonna go with Elijah Badger, 2024 receiver out of Arizona State. I just, when I watched some of the film earlier today, I really got excited about just his ability to manipulate. I like the acceleration off the line of scrimmage, and I think he understands zone concepts to find the soft spots and exploit them. I really identify with his skill set as far as translating to the next level. I think he is more of a wide receiver 3, but the wide receiver 2 upside with the immense opportunity he should have this season should be there. I think it's definitely there for the taking.
Nice. I'm going to go with CJ Williams, transferred from USC to Wisconsin. I was really disappointed because he was one of my favorite receivers coming out of the 2025 freshman class. He is a 2025 eligible drafted wide receiver. Didn't work out at USC, which kind of was disappointing. I was really impressed in the All-American game that he played in, showing the boundary awareness. He played big. He went up and got the ball, had some yak ability, and it just didn't work out for USC. But he's getting a fresh start at Wisconsin. Spring reports are that he looks like he's going to be, wide receiver 1, 2 on that team. So I haven't lost hope yet. This late in the game, I'm going to swing with CJ Williams.
I like it, man. I thought about CJ Williams a couple of picks earlier, so that's a good one. I'm gonna go with Devontae Walker coming over from Kent State, going to the Tar Heels, and he just has that size speed combination that I really like. I think he just understands exactly how to hit the gaps. He understands how to hit the acceleration button when he's getting downfield, and I think he's going to be exactly what Drake May needs while losing a guy like Josh Downs. Walker could fill in, see a lot of production, and coming from a 58 reception, 921 yard, and 11 touchdown season, man, 1,000 yards is not out of the question for him this upcoming season, and that's just going to add to his resume. So Walker it is for me.
Yeah, a lot of people excited about him. So, given that size and speed combo you talked about. So 3 picks left here. I'm going to go with Dominic Lovett, transferring to Georgia from Mizzou. He's going to be starting. for Georgia, right next to Ladd McConkey. There's no doubt about it. He's not going to be a starter on that team. He's going to bring that explosiveness. I'm really, really, really excited to watch Lovett. He is a smaller framed receiver who is very explosive with the ball in his hand. And I feel like Georgia, to have a player like that, if Carson Beck can, get somebody who's doing like mesh concepts and, the short area quickness, but can like take it to the house on any give. I feel like Georgia hasn't had a player like that from what I can remember in a while. And I'm really excited to see what he can do, but he was very productive for 2 years at Missouri. Now he's, transfers to, the big stage. Georgia's going to win the national championship again. I already know they are. So
a cakewalk schedule too.
Yes. So, he's got the ability to, be possibly a wide receiver 3, good slot receiver in the NFL. So keep your eyes on Lovett, 2024 prospect. If he does well this year, he could, make some noise in the draft next year.
Yeah, I like it. McConkey's going to have some competition, huh? There we go. I'm going to go with 2025 receiver Travis Hunter out of Colorado. To me, this is just one of those guys who was a 5-star corner coming out, converted to a wide receiver, and is the primary weapon for Shedeur Sanders with, I don't know what's around him, but anytime I see a converted corner with that kind of high caliber recruit rating, that tells me that he's going to understand his opponent and know how to manipulate. And that is going to be a nice foundation just to start with. Really excited for this kid. I think he's got great speed, separation skills based on his mirroring as a corner from what I saw. So excited for the upside with Travis Hunter.
Yeah. A guy that's played corner that like goes to wide receiver has got to give that wide receiver an advantage. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's got to know the tendencies of what he's looking at from a defensive standpoint to manipulate that and take advantage. So I think it's a great call. He could be a huge riser if he just blows up at Colorado for sure. All right, with the last pick, guys, to wrap this show up, I'm going to go with Dane Key, a Kentucky wide receiver, plays in the SEC as a freshman last year. He's a 2025 NFL draft prospect. 6'3", 194. Love that size and combo frame. But he had over 500 yards and 6 TDs as a freshman playing in the SEC. That says something about his ability and skill level. And I think he's twitchy. You selected his teammate Barion Brown earlier, but Dane Key was only 100 yards less than him with like seven or eight less receptions. So not as explosive as Barion Brown, not that kind of receiver that can take it to more of a possession type receiver, but one with that frame and his movement skills, I still think have potential to be an NFL potential wide receiver and make it to our dynasty rosters. So that rounds out our 40. That rounds out our top 40 altogether. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Jason, that was a fun exercise. It kind of got me thinking just about all these players, and I think it's a solid list.
It is a solid list, and there's a lot of upside with this list too. And honestly, I think you're Mr. Relevant and Dane Key. I think he could be vastly underrated. I think you nailed it. I mean,
yeah, I appreciate that.
Not much between him and Barion Brown, other than that elite speed that Brown has.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the production was there. The one guy that didn't make the list that I thought maybe would make it was who's getting a lot of draft buzz for 2024 is Johnny Wilson out of Florida State.
I didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I feel like he's like super big. I don't know what a 6'7" wide receiver.
I see him as a tight end, so it's hard for me to label him as the receiver.
Yeah. So well, anyway, guys. Thanks for watching the show. Again, hit that subscribe button, everybody. Appreciate it. This should give you a kind of a glimpse into the future of what the dynasty landscape looks like for the wide receivers. So, thanks for watching.